I'm Taylor Mizuno-Moore. I'm an LPC, a licensed professional counselor. I got my master's from Northwestern University in 2019. So there's a focus in clinical psychotherapy. I also focused in children and adolescents, although I don't primarily work with children and adolescents right now. I got 2 bachelor's degrees. I have a bachelor's in music from California State University, Long Beach, the Bob Cole Conservatory of Music. I also have a bachelor's from the University of California, Irvine, so UC Irvine, in East Asian literature and Japanese. But I do think that culture, it definitely informs a lot of sort of my identity work that I like to do when I'm working with folks. I also attended Yale for a research fellowship when I was still attending Northwestern, and I was focused primarily in anxiety and mood disorders. I did a lot of research on how to help folks that are struggling with anxiety disorders, what sort of interventions would be appropriate for kiddos at those ages. After I graduated from Northwestern, I did a postgraduate clinical fellowship at Northwestern. So I graduated from Northwestern and then I went right into work at Northwestern as a clinical fellow, and I worked with a lot of young adults for about 2 years before I transitioned to the expansive group, which is where I'm currently at. I'm the operations manager and staff psychotherapist for an all-queer, femme-presenting leadership team that sees primarily queer folks and biracial folks, multiracial folks. I would say about 90% of my caseload currently are Black, Indigenous, people of color, queer folks, and white cis men. It's really very opposite ends of the spectrum, which I really, really, really enjoy, and it keeps me on my toes. I really, really love the work that I'm doing. And in addition to my work at the expansive group, I'm also currently a doctoral student at the University of Southern California, and I'm studying organizational psychology. I'm hoping to address implicit bias within leadership teams and see how they affect organizations. And really what I'm looking at all of that through is the lens of being a queer and biracial person. My topic is straddling identities, and I'm specifically looking at the focus of the intersectionality of being queer and also being biracial. So when I was going through grad school at Northwestern, what I was noticing is a lot of the literature was looking at only siloed identities or identifiers. You would see chapter 1, race, chapter 2, religion, chapter 3, Black, chapter 4, Asian. And what you aren't seeing is the intersectionality of how those identifiers can overlap, and really what comes out of being identified as multiple, I guess I would say layers. Oftentimes what's being really misunderstood is to be Asian is something that's very different than being a queer Asian. To be Asian and queer and femme is very different from being queer, Asian, and mask. One of my biggest frustrations actually was seeing a discrepancy in a lot of the research and a lot of the literature, and feeling really, and from that frustration, finding a really strong desire to integrate them and look at how we can work with folks that have these lenses versus have these siloed identifiers and only working with one identifier at a time. Oh, so much. I think just a different way of thinking about identity. The way I've begun to really think about identity within an individual are these layers of lenses. And so if we're thinking of identifiers in colors, I'm thinking of Asian being red and being queer as blue and being femme presenting as green, or these different colors. And if you look through all of the lenses, what comes out the other end? If you're looking only at the blue and the red, that's going to be a different color than if you're looking at blue, red, green, yellow, you name it. Being able to draw and acknowledge individuals' identifiers, identities, experiences, family dynamics, you name it, and really seeing what comes out the other end of those layers is probably the number one thing I'm hoping that folks take away. Yeah, I sat with this question for a bit, and if we were to use the phrase being out, which I don't particularly agree with, is the best way to honor folks stepping into their authentic identity. But if we were to use the phrase being out, I would say this is my first conference, my first talk as being completely out to family, friends, colleagues, my professional team. And that leaves a very special place for me to step into an authentic identity and an authentic self. And I feel like there are just so few spaces that are designed to do that. And, you know, I worked in higher academia for a bit, and that was one of the biggest barriers, I think, in my professional growth. And so being able to be a part of a community that's designed to have those sorts of conversations and designed to challenge the way that we've been thinking for generations is really, really cool and rad. I met Lee just a few months ago, actually, and felt incredibly honored to be asked to be a speaker. And I think that being queer and being part of the queer community, there's something really warm about being included in a space that has felt so isolating for so many years. I'm really, really excited.